Welcome to the Supercar Owner Podcast. It's going to be a monthly podcast, which will bring you some news of upcoming events, talk about recent events, what we've been up to as a club, and get to know some of our members and sponsors a little bit better. But we thought we'd start with an introduction, so introducing Supercar Owner UK, who we are, what we do, and we'll start with Mark and Shaun, who run the show mainly. So welcome, Mark. Welcome, Shaun.
Hello. How are you doing?
Hello, Martin.
All good? Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell us a bit about the club, how it was started, how it's going.
Do you want to go first, Mark?
You can go first.
You always do this to me.
Always.
Every single time.
Always.
So when did we meet? 2017? 2018?
Yep. 17.
Yeah, so we met at a car meet, didn't we? You know, when we got on quite well and we attended quite a few little sort of car drives and things, and we realised, I think, there's potentially a gap in the market for just doing things as on a friendly basis, really, just as mates. Not something that serious. It was just something we kind of wanted to do to sort of have car meets, photo shoots, and kind of little drive outs, but do it without the pressure of running a business. Mm-hmm. Things certainly took a turn from there, haven't they?
Yeah, it's definitely evolved from that quite a bit. But I think you're right in that's how it began, and there was certainly, alongside the need in our area for that kind of car club, there was definitely a gap in the market, both locally and nationally, for a mixed sports and supercar club. I think that, there's a lot of the variety of car owners out there, and ultimately in the sports and supercar sphere, everybody wants a similar thing of doing a combination of static meets and getting out there and going for drives. And it was just good to be able to come up with something that kind of satisfied that need for the kind of that sector.
Yeah.
It's gone from strength to strength, I would say, so far.
Yeah, so just thinking back to then, I mean, there were quite a few kind of car clubs out there, and the majority were either brand car clubs, obviously like MX-5 owners or Porsches or whatever. And then obviously there was the supercar type clubs, which there were a few about at the time as well, but nothing really that kind of really sat in the middle. And I think what we saw is there were a lot of, some of these supercar clubs that were out there had quite strict rules in terms of, what defines a supercar. Mm-hmm. And I think, and some of it might have been price driven, some of it, obviously just what's popular at the time, really. But we saw even a stage where even some like Audi R8s weren't even qualifying for some of these supercar clubs. It just seems a bit odd. And then you've got like some of these sort of V10 BUs and things, that again weren't qualifying, even though they were faster than the majority of other supercars that are out there. So, so I think defining this term sports and supercar club, I think helped us bring people together, but in such a way that there was no one's kind of treated differently depending on what badge you've got on your car or value. It's kind of like everyone's into cars. And what I've noticed is people that came and maybe on an MC series BMW, their next car ended up being a Porsche or something else. And you're catching people, I think, where they're on that, moving up that ladder, but with no snobbery. I think that's why I think I've probably jumped ahead a couple of topics, really.
No, I think it's fine. It's definitely a more inclusive club than a lot of the clubs out there. So as you say, qualifying car lists and things exist. The vast majority of this sort of supercar club space, and it sort of breeds a particular kind of atmosphere at those events that SCUK just doesn't have. I think that's a really positive thing.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Yeah, from day one, we've been really happy with the dynamic of the members and the cars that are attending, and it's gone from strength to strength. And yeah, I mean, it's worth noting that we started as Northern Sports and Supercar Club, and that was how it began. And then we quickly, as things grew and we saw the appetite for it to be, throughout the UK, or at least a wider area than just the North, we rebranded to SCUK, and we've kind of tried to go through it on a more national basis. And now we're 2023, 60 plus events on the calendar. I would say that pretty much every event sells out reasonably quickly, or some of them straight away. Most sell out reasonably. And so, yeah, really happy with kind of the direction that's gone so far. And hopefully we're doing a good job for the members and we can keep doing that.
Awesome. So what cars did you have when you formed the club?
I had when we formed the club officially, I had an Audi S3. So I was probably just nudging into the what we'd say is the qualifying sort of sports sports car.
I would say it was probably the
interior.
fastest S3 in Yorkshire, I would say.
It was reasonably swift when it needed to be on drives. Reasonably swift. I was hesitant when you first asked me, because when I first met Shaun, I shamefully had a diesel Mercedes that had the entire AMG body kit on it.
Lovely.
I felt I'd done quite a good job with it in terms of aesthetics or it looking OEM.
A sheep in wolf's clothing.
Yeah, exactly that. But it was great as long as it was static with the engine turned off. Yeah, I grew to not turn the engine on around people because I was like, everyone's looking at this like it's an AMG, and they turn it on and they hear the lovely diesel sound and
rev it.
Yeah. I've had that a few
Give it
times
a rev.
actually at events where
It only revs
people
to
have asked me
4,000.
to rev it, and I'd rather not. Thank you.
Big cloud of
But,
diesel smoke out the back.
Yeah. But yeah, so the S3 was the first car when this all got started. And I think, what were you in? Were you in there?
When we first met, I was in the V8 R8 Gen
Mhm.
1, and I'd just transitioned to the V10 Plus on a Gen 1 when we set the club up.
Mm-hmm.
Decent performance cars then. Like, to start a club like this, it kind of typified the thing. V10 R8, very much supercar.
Yeah.
Piston heads probably disagree, but
I should also add, I mean, there was at that time we had a third partner that set up, which is Lee, who's still involved in the club. He's quite busy at the moment, so he's not able to kind of attend as many events as he would normally. But he had the V10. No, it's the Gallardo. Gallardo, yeah. I was quite jealous. It's an awesome car.
It was, yeah. And I think at the time when I first met him, he had just had it resprayed, so it was in like pearlescent white or pale white, sorry. And it was an awesome looking thing. It was.
But that's because that's what happens. I think we met on Scarpa front. Yeah. That was the first time. You'd already parked up. Mm-hmm. I think Lee got there like a minute before me. But again, I'd never met him or yourself. Yeah. And then we'd managed to we were parking and right on the seafront. This is before basically Scarborough put a ban on car meets and everything, which is another topic in itself. Yeah. And so we turn up and the road was just crowded with people absolutely everywhere. And obviously you turn up at that time in anything fancy and everyone's looking, rev it and all that sort of thing. And you kind of you just want to get your car parked up and off to one side. So this is a V8 manual, and again, I don't think I had it that long. And you need to forward, you need to backwards and forward, and he ended up stalling it in front of this. He couldn't have had more people in the road, and literally everyone went, "Oh, can he can't drive?" And I just like parked up and just held my head in shame. I'm like, "Yep, I can't drive." It's funny. It's funny at the time.
But the club's obviously grown in this sort of journey that you've been on, and that sort of handily brings us to Josh, who's with us today. So I don't know if you want to introduce Josh to us, and then Josh can...
Photographer extraordinaire, who's graduated to photography, marketing and media extraordinaire. So you joined us in...
November, I think.
You joined us officially in November, but when we first met, we were at we arranged a member photo shoot at Grantley Hall. And I think we invited a couple of photographers down, and you were one of the ones who came down. When was that? 2021?
Yeah, 2 years ago. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Wow.
Over 2 years now.
That's good. That's time flies.
Yeah, so it all stemmed from a video of Matt's car and another member, which I put on my Instagram story, and then it sent from one person to the next, and it ended up in your guys' hands. So.
I didn't even know that. Didn't even know how I wasn't in charge of that.
Yeah.
But
I was on a walk with my mum,
mm-hmm.
and I took a video of Matt's Lotus and Neil's R8 at the time, and put it on my Instagram story and thought nothing of it really. And then I think you messaged me, didn't you?
Mm.
And then 2 years later, full time.
Here you are. I think it's fair to say that Josh's photos, your photos, are sort of a prominent feature of the club that gives the club a feel on social media presence. We've got a lot of great photographers associated with the club, but in recent times, certainly since you've been here full time, but even before then, a lot of the photos that the club chose to publish from those events were your photos, because they sort of stand out. There's obviously a particular style, and the club's kind of adopted that sort of image style, and it's got a feel to it, and it's really a really nice.
I should also add here is that Josh's mum doesn't attend him on all his photos.
Yeah, she just helped get the job, and that was it. Yeah, definitely. I think the social presence now is a lot better than where it was before. I think we needed, prior to me starting, I think we needed a consistent flow of content that members can distribute themselves and that we can distribute on behalf of members. So yeah, it's nice to have that flow of content back.
And not just that,
Absolutely.
but also kind of steering other content creators to produce the kind of content that the club needs
Absolutely.
for branding purposes, and that the members want to see. Driving all these awesome cars around some truly stunning locations, not just in the UK but around Europe and perhaps even further afield.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
these are memories for people, and having awesome photos is a big part of that.
Yeah, it's great. We've been able to get a few photographers involved in the club since, and it's one of those things that, I mean, for me, before I started, it was one of them. How do you get into this sort of world? There's so many photographers out there, and it's a massively competitive space, and there's so many talented people wanting to do the same job. So I'm just lucky, really, that I was at the right place at the right time, and then it all stemmed from there. But yeah, we've been able to get other people involved in the events, and it almost feels like giving back to the people who want to be where I sort of ended up at this point.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's sort of speaks to the club ethos as well. The sort of inclusivity thing. It's nice that there's a community, not just of car people, but people who are into cars, not just the car owners sort of tucked in some highfalutin country estate patting each other on the back. There's a bit more of a community about it. So to be in the community, it's not just Mark and Shaun that do everything. There's a team of ambassadors and helpers and people like that sort of in the background, who I would imagine that most of the members have met the ambassadors one way or another, but might not necessarily know who they are, or that there even are ambassadors in some cases. So we'll talk through the current roster of ambassadors. I know I'm one, but we'll sort of list them out, and we can talk about some ambassadors for a little bit. So we've got Matt here, who's been quietly
listening.
Yeah, quietly listening. I might be wrong, but I think you're possibly one of the longest serving ambassadors.
Yeah, possibly, or Mike as well as one of the other ambassadors.
OGs.
Yeah, no
OGs,
doubt,
yes.
no doubt. But yeah, probably 3 years in.
Yeah. So we've got Matt and Mike, who are the sort of the longest serving ambassadors. They're the most prominent. I mean, your car helps. But
Which one?
Which one? The current livery Mustang.
That's another
definitely
story.
helps you
Will be
stand out.
changed by the time this goes
Yeah.
out. So just
Yeah.
say the current one.
The current car. By the time of publication, it might be different. I don't know. And we've got Mike with the XKR, who's not just helping run the events, but he does a lot of planning. I know Matt does as well, but he does a lot of pre-driving of routes and things like that. There's a lot more that goes into it than perhaps people realise when they just see someone and their car at a meet wearing an SCUK.
It helps that Mike's got encyclopedic knowledge of every B road that it seems.
Yeah.
I didn't even realise there were C roads, but Mike seems to be able to find them.
Yeah. And then we've got two newer ambassadors to the team in Hinesh and Reem.
Hinesh and Reem. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the list. Yeah, Hinesh, Reem, obviously yourself, and a new addition as well, Neil Holworth, who's over in kind of Wales direction.
Yeah.
He's getting involved as well.
So we've all got our little areas of specialty. Hinesh is down in the...
Oh, James as well.
Oh, James, yes, of course.
James Ibbotson.
Yeah. So we've got Hinesh down in the Kent area, Reem's northeast, if I'm not mistaken.
Reams, not far from me, South Yorkshire based. Yeah.
So we're sort of covering a decent amount of the country now with the ambassador footprint. I'm in the northwest, so we're sort of covering there. So it's a good team, a good bunch of people. Hopefully, we'll get some more of the team on this podcast, so you can see them, meet them, etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good team of people. I mean, how do you find the right? But what's your criteria for having an ambassador come on board? How do you vet people? Or what do you look for? What do you go after? And are there plans to add any more people?
I mean, if I'm honest, in terms of looking and vetting, I'd say the majority of ambassadors are long-term members of the club who have probably approached us saying, would you like any more help, rather than us approach them. And yeah, I mean, I can't say that we've got specific criteria other than, we are a very friendly club, and we try to do the best for our members, and that definitely needs more hands on deck, and it needs constant hands on deck for a variety of tasks, and it's just finding those members who are able to commit the time that we need to make the events happen for the members in the way that we want to, whilst also being able to get a few perks of being what ambassadorship brings. I mean, if you take somebody like Mike, that's probably a great example, because like Matt said, Mike's got a fantastic knowledge of every ABC road in the country for sure. I mean, I've done the time that he's been able to commit with me to do pre-drives on events, which members probably don't see, like you said, they don't see that side of stuff, but it's really valuable. I mean, if I take a specific example, we did South Coast, Northwest Scotland last year. I pre-drove that with Mike. He planned the route. We then did it all in one day, which was like 500 miles in one day. It was pretty heavy going, but the state of some of the roads, because we were trying to do an official, the official route is called the SWC 300, Southwest Coast 300. We were going to follow that as closely as we could. When it came down to it, if we'd done that, we would have been sending sports and supercars home on recovery trucks, because the state of some of the road was just atrocious. Like, you think you've got potholes here, you definitely don't. These were craters, and doesn't matter how fast or slow you go, and if you come round a bend and you've got 10 cars behind you and you meet a pothole that's the size of a dustbin, the risk there is too high for one of our events. So for us to be able to do things like that is incredibly useful, and just having that ambassador support of ambassadors who have got enough time to commit and enjoy doing it as well. Like when they are helping us, they're enjoying doing it. And that's really our key criteria, and we just kind of work backwards from there. We obviously have kind of a limit that we kind of feel, do we have enough general support at the moment? Do we feel supported enough in to be able to pull off the events to the extent that we want to? And I think as it stands, we're there with it. We're really grateful and happy with the ambassador team. It's fantastic that some others have joined us outside of our original area of kind of the Yorkshire and the top of the Midlands, now that we're growing and expanding out, and we've got Hanesh down in London and stuff. It's really nice to see that support coming in from all over the country.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm hugely honoured is an overused word, but it definitely feels like home being part of the club, and I think most of the ambassadors would echo that and then some. So hopefully even if it's invisible value, I hope the members feel the value that the ambassador team brings, and I'd like to see, as the club grows, and that sort of the membership hopefully see the inputs, and even if it's not directly like, thanks Mike for sorting out the route, or thanks to Matt for pre-driving this, that or the other, they feel the benefit of that expansion, that support that's there, even if it's kind of unspoken. If you like, it's kind of, it makes the club better for the breadth of experience in that.
I mean, obviously a key part of the ambassador program as well is obviously how we marshal the drives.
Yeah.
And it's great to get that feedback when you have pre-driven a route, you've planned it, you've executed it in terms of the drive, and then you've had feedback from members to say, well, actually I came to this this club on a bit of a punt almost, to see how it works, and actually to come from another group where it perhaps hadn't been organised as well. I think that proves that that's a massive part of the ambassador program.
I think sums it up. We appreciate it. Without ambassadors, we couldn't run the club. We couldn't run it in any way like in the format we currently are.
Yeah.
So it's such an essential part of what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has to be about that member involvement and making sure that everyone feels involved in drives and the meets, and I think a crucial part of the ambassador program is just actually networking with the members, actually getting around and speaking to people. And I've made friends obviously by being part of the club, but also more so from being an ambassador, because it's meant that I've had to go around and actually reach out to people, really,
and being a conduit for feedback. People might be shy to approach the owners of the club with a suggestion to improve something, or something that's not gone so well, or not that that's ever been a thing that I've known about, but little things like, what wouldn't it be a good idea if this, it's sort of a softer thing coming to the ambassador group than perhaps they feel wrongly, by the way, intimidated by coming to.
I know
Mark or Shaun.
I'm an intimidating character.
Yeah.
I understand,
But it's
I
interesting
completely
point.
agree.
It's just I've never really regarded myself as being an owner. It's weird because people say, you know, are you anything to do with organisation, team? You know, when people ask me, you know, I'll say, yeah, I help out. You know, that's kind of what I say. I don't want, you know, I'm not like yourself. We don't kind of sit on some sort of party. I mean, it's just like, you know, I'm part of the team, you know, but it is a team.
No, but back to, I agree back to what Martin said in terms of like having people to be able to feedback improvements to, and then us to be able to like understand what the members need and put that in place. That's happened multiple times where we've had great suggestions, we've put them in play. It probably goes without saying that if any member feels that there's any area that we can improve, please let us know, because we'll make it happen.
Or even just taking things like if there's some small personal problem on a drive out, an overnight stay or whatever, you know, there's often personal things that come up because it's life, you know, and the ambassadors help. There's more capacity to deal with things to help people when, you know, you needed to nip away for half an hour or some support finding a petrol station or something like that. You know, can we deviate off route for a little bit? Can we marshal some cars if there's horrendous traffic somewhere or road closure, or those two things often go hand in hand. You know, just little bits and pieces like that. If we get split up, help to bring things back together.
A lot of people in the club actually who've joined, it's possibly their first club experience. It's probably their first experience of being in a convoy of 25 odd cars. You know, so there's a certain amount of understanding of how do you actually drive.
Yeah.
In that, how do you follow a convoy? How do you behave? And I think probably one of the most rewarding experiences I had was last year on the SWC 300, where we had a member who had gone out with us. It was a 3-day trip, two-nighter. And the second day, there was a nervousness about the route. There was a nervousness about the drive. And it led to them speaking to me openly and coming to me in the morning saying, look, I was really nervous last night. I was struggling to sleep. And I had to talk to him to say, look, this is your holiday, end of the day. So at the end of the day, if you are feeling nervous about the drive, please don't be. And the second half of the day, I held back and I kind of led this member on the route. And the smile at the end of the day came back with just to say, you know, that was fabulous. And, you know, I don't profess to be the best driver in the world by any stretch, but it felt at one point as though he was really starting to learn the route and learning the roads. And it's quite funny because at one point he was right on my backside indicating to overtake, and up to that point in the day he'd not been anywhere near that. So, you know, I think to be able to just offer that value back to a member, for him then to understand what it's all about, and then think, you know, next time I'm really gonna come on another one. I'm really gonna enjoy myself. You know, that's what it's all about, really.
Definitely. Yeah, safety is obviously a big thing. That not encouraging reckless behaviour, that kind of thing, is a very important part of being on any organised drive out. You know, and I think the team of ambassadors help set the pace and sort of show what's acceptable and what isn't within the group. So there's obviously the rules of the road and so on that we all respect, but there's more than that. There's, you know, distances you keep to other cars. There's, you know, noise through villages and things like that. You know, just a general set of behaviour that gives that sort of comfort level.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's a real hidden benefit of having ambassadors on drives. That I don't know particularly how a lot of other clubs do this. I've not been a member of all of them by long means, but I have been on drives with other groups, and, you know, there's not necessarily that level of support out there for members that I think we have. So
yeah, definitely.
I think it's fair to say that, you know, we're definitely not perfect, and we've learned from experience. Simple as that. I mean, we began running drives in 2017 onwards, and it became apparent very quickly, you know, the serious flaws of getting too many cars together, run them on a drive, not educating people that following the route live on, you know, via Google Maps was basically an essential part. It wasn't just an optional thing, it was the essential part. But like, if you've got 30 cars together and everybody follows the route, you're still getting split up. So we've been through that learning process of, right, what do we need for our driving tours, both just our morning trips and our overnight tours? What do we need to offer the best driving experience for cars and attendees? And ultimately, it's very simple. It's that at any point during the day, they still want to kind of have a lead driver be able to guide them on the route and make sure that experience is going well for them. And so that's where we've really learned that we have to have an appropriate amount of support for the amount of cars that are with us, and it's not just a free for all where you can advertise for 100 cars to turn up and do a drive, because that's no fun for anyone. So that's sort of where we've been through that learning curve, and now we are where we are.
Yes, it speaks to the sort of responsibility that you guys have to your customers at the end of the day. These people who come to the drives out whenever they're there for a good time, and these things are in place for the benefit of everybody. My personal experience of this is that they're all amazing. There's not been a low light of any of the trips I've been on. They're all extremely well run, and it's sort of a testament to the way the club is. And on that note, do you guys have personal highlights from running the club? Like, what would you say that when you think about running SCUK, what stands out in your mind as being that's something that's a real high point for us as a club and for you personally?
You're looking at me.
It's difficult to pick out one. I've really enjoyed the journey so far. I would say there's two, and one's not a specific example, but it's more just general in that the events that we offer, they predominantly fall into three categories, which is a static meet, might be at a dealership or a venue, a morning drive, and an overnight tour. And for me, the highlight that keeps recurring is that every year we'll do static meets, and every year the attendance just significantly grows. And just to know that, I guess the feeling that we're hopefully doing something right is definitely always a highlight for me, particularly if we have like our season opening or season closing event. They're always the ones that are incredibly well attended, and it's just great to see that we're able to offer sports and supercar events and experiences for more and more owners who want to get out there in their cars. In terms of a specific example, it's really hard to pick one out. I mean, I enjoy the overnight tours more than anything else. I would say probably the first time we did our Europe tour was probably one of the biggest highlights for me. It was smaller in numbers because it was earlier on in the club, but it was a big jump. I think Shaun would agree with this. It was probably a big leap for us to go from, we'd almost not done many overnight trips at all at that. It was one of our early ones, and it went basically hitch free. And I think we all came back with a big smile on our face thinking what an amazing experience that was. And that's probably still to date my best highlight of what we've done so far.
I'd probably mirror that. I remember the first Europe trip. I think just the experience of kind of this first time you hit those roads, and just a group of people, and you have your ups and downs, and there's always something interesting that happens in every trip. But that was particularly was a really good one. And I think on the subject of kind of overnighters, I do enjoy overnighters. I think more than any of the other sort of events that we do, because the thing is, when you're running an event, you're spending most of the time on your car. You're in your car, and you're on the radio, so it's kind of, a lot of it is kind of really one-way communication. And because when we're at events, I'm quite a chatty person. I like to talk to people and stuff, and one problem we've got now is that you go to events and there's quite a lot of people there, and I want to speak to everybody, but I can't speak to. There isn't enough time to speak to people, and I almost feel guilty. I can see there's people I've not seen for a while, I want to have a chat and stuff, and I'm kind of, now I can't speak to as many people as I kind of like to be able to do that. But I think when we're on the tours, then you do have that time, so you can actually spend, you can have a proper conversation with people and have a bit of a chat, and get to know people better.
The social side of
it's because that to be honest, that is what makes the whole stress of running the trip and everything so worthwhile, because you've got that, and you're making new friends, and it's that's a great feeling to have. But the other stuff is just stress, isn't it? And then you kind of go at the end of it, that's over. Right, when's the next one? And it's kind of, it is, isn't it?
So it gives you the time to look back, to be in the moment with the event rather than focusing on the event itself. It's sort of you actually get to enjoy the
you get to kind of relax, and I think is that you've got to sort of take, for example, our season opener this year at Melbourne Raceway. It was great. We had loads of photographers there. We're all on hand, including ambassadors, to kind of get there, bringing people in on convoy. Myself and Matt spent a lot of time basically just lining the cars up, getting everyone on the runway. I never left that runway that day. Right, I didn't get as far as the sandwich van. In fact, if you hadn't brought me that coffee over, I wouldn't have had a drink.
I'm just going to say, obviously I had more time than you when I brought you a coffee.
You were chatting to a lot of people, and I didn't notice that. But and genuinely, I didn't. I would spend all time parking cars and guiding cars in, and I hardly got a chance to speak to anyone at all, because that's what needed to be done at the time. And it kind of got to the end of it, and I thought, and I looked at you and I said, you said, sandwich van's gone. I'm like, that's a good job. I don't eat bread anyway. But the point is that we kind of do it now without realising it. And I think, I say, on the tours, you kind of just have that bit of time to kind of unwind, I think, and speak to people, really.
Yeah, and personal highlight for me is finding out that Mark badged his diesel Mercedes up with an AMG. So that's probably that one.
I regret even mentioning it now. I should have
kept going to stick that one now. Yeah. And I think just as a different type, my personal highlight actually was going to Blighton, because I'd been on track before on an open track day where there were lots of different cars and lots of obviously different people who I didn't know, and we ran a Blighton private track day, a track day at Blighton, and I brought my Lotus at the time, and it was the first time I'd really took it out on track, and I was nervous about it because it wasn't covered on track insurance. So the reassurance I got from being in the club was that actually it was a closed circuit, it was only our members, and with everyone being as respectful as there were only 10 or 11 cars out on track at once, so you got lots of space. And being able to take it out on track and really find its limits really helped me understand the car, so that when I did take it out on the road, I knew how hard I could push into a certain corner that was significantly harder than I had been doing previously. And I think the types of experiences like that you can get from being in the club as well, in a safe manner, help you be a better driver when you're out on the road as well.
I agree. Yeah, knowing your limits, pushing yourself as a driver to be a better driver, and then applying that knowledge is that's always going to be a good feeling. I think my personal, there's a moment on a drive we did in Northumberland where the weather had been quite poor. We're still enjoying the drive, but it's hard when it's drizzle, rain, whatever. And all of a sudden, the skies didn't clear, but it at least stopped raining. It clearly not been raining too much at that part of the world we were in, so it sort of dried up a bit, and the roads opened up and the driving opened up to be a bit more enjoyable. And there was the drive had broken apart, as they always do, into sort of three groups of people based on their car and how confident they're feeling and etc. Driving at your own pace kind of thing. There's always accommodation for whatever pace you want to drive at. But there was 4 or 5 of us, all in the same frame of mind, all enjoying these roads together, and that was a real pinch yourself moment to look around. In front of you, there's an awesome car. Behind you, there's an awesome car, and just the noise and everything about it was one of those sort of perfect driving moments. And I've had similar things, but I've always been on my own. When you come over the crest of a hill to some unbelievably scenic view or whatever, and you just think, well, that's amazing, but I'm the only person experiencing this, and just knowing that you're sharing that awesome moment with other people, and then you get back and you reflect on it afterwards, and everyone was feeling the same thing as you were in that moment. So you're not alone, but you shared like a proper special moment on a drive in something that incredibly privileged to be able to own in the first place, and it's just an amazing experience.
Yeah, definitely.
That's probably my highlight of membership so far.
Josh, was the highlight for you being left at the top of a Welsh mountain, or was it something different?
Yeah, half an hour in the rain.
That was everyone else's highlight.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting one for sure.
Yeah.
Are you going to explain that one, or just leave it there?
Like you left you.
Just leave it
Yeah,
there.
like you left me.
Yeah, no, I just left you, and we'll leave it at that.
Oh, I think my highlight was it's hard not to say Europe. It's hard not to say Europe, but I'm not going to. The first time we did the NC 500 was the first tour that I came on, and the main memory that stands out to me is I was in the McLaren with Shaun, the 570S, and we were going on the coast. And I think, like you said, Martin, you look in the mirror and you've got the line of cars behind you. The sun's out, and you just think, wow, look at what we're doing and where we are. Yeah, awesome. And the roads in Scotland are incredible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the highlight for me.
In 2 weeks, we do it again.
Yeah.
We do. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Extremely looking forward to that.
So what are the plans for the future? Where are you looking to expand? What's next for the club?
I think it's fair to say that we've got aspirations to make it a truly national club, but with the location of the majority of ambassadors and ownership of the club, we do tend to have still a slight bias towards Yorkshire Midlands events, just because that's where the volume of our events take place. So I think our aspirations long term are just to be able to serve more members around the country with more regular events that they can go to, specifically static meets and morning drives. That's the main thing that I'd like us to achieve. Yeah, but there's other things that are on the horizon as well. Certainly like the variety of events that we offer. We've done some, for example, some factory tours. We want to offer more of those. We want to offer more track days. We're working with more partners regarding like driver tuition. So there's loads of stuff on the horizon, but if we can improve how many events we can offer to people in different regions, that would be fantastic.
And I suppose the good thing about the tours is the tours are, it doesn't matter where you're based, are you?
Yeah,
they're
they're less sensitive to the location, which is definitely a good thing, because the tours are obviously, we offer more and more of them every year. They sell out usually pretty quickly, and it's for any sports and supercar owner, it's an incredibly unforgettable experience as far as I'm concerned. So get involved, people.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for listening to this interesting chat about SCUK on the Supercar Owner podcast. We look forward to seeing you at an event very soon. Until then, head to our website, which is supercarowner.co.uk. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and remember to check out Car Calendar to find awesome car events near you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you.